Good evening. We had two wonderful sessions prior to this. A great talk on Metaverse and what really Metaverse is all about. And the talk just before this from HP on the innovation which is happening on the hardware. Really, technology today is touching our lives in many different ways. It's making us think differently, communicate differently, work differently as well. I think that is the power of new age technology which is there. More importantly, I believe the intelligent technologies which are there today, AI, ML, AR, VR options, the cloud journeys, the cloud adoptions, the innovations which are happening within cloud, the core ML algorithms and the deep learning algorithms methods which are being leveraged by some of the companies are amazing. Today our conversation is more about hearing from the experts who have actually made this happen, done it before, and these are real life examples that are going to be portrayed. Feel free to ask questions and we hope to make it very interactive in the sessions and these are. So I'll start the session with a small question to you, Vijay. And if we look at what you're doing with BhartPe, you're essentially touching the lives of billions of people, huge amount of transactions which are there. Really, the resilience of the architecture is something which needs to be handled. What has been your experience putting up such an architecture and technology behind it? It's an amazing journey that you guys are in.
Yep, amazing journey indeed. And first of all, thanks for having me here. Lovely audience, lovely panelists. Would love to share my insights and would love to hear from others as well. So coming to the point, talking about BharatPe, we are one of the largest players in the Indian fintech space, particularly operating in digital payments and digital lending. Payments in particular sees a lot of transaction volume, and as you rightly mentioned, there is a lot of scale, rapid growth that brings about its own challenges that we need to deal with. And while we do that, cloud does help us a lot in some particular ways, which I'll just share here. By the way, we've been on cloud right from day one, so that has been our default setup of choice. Because like at the time we started, that was 2018, cloud was fairly mature in its evolution, and that made it a very easy choice for us to begin our journey with cloud itself rather than starting on-prem and then thinking about migrating to cloud. Right. Coming to the specific ways how it helps us is that one, obviously there is a large amount of hardware available which we can tap into on demand. So if we're growing like 20%, 30%, 40% month on month, we don't have to worry about procuring hardware, releasing POs, then waiting for the hardware to arrive, and configuring it in the data center. So that is all taken care of. We can scale up, we can scale down. By the hour, by the minute, in fact, and that is very, very helpful. The second thing it helps us with is that all this hardware is driven by software, right? So there are APIs to control all the configuration, all the things that we want to do, the amount of resources we want, the kind of connectivity we want to provide. So all that is driven by software. And that allows us to automate a lot of stuff. So it takes a lot of manual operations out of the operations team domain. So that is again something very, very helpful. And the third is cloud providers these days also provide a lot of higher level abstractions. Like there are certain solutions which are built for certain use cases. So we get, in fact, more than the raw hardware. For example, we get different kinds of managed services. There are certain solutions already built in which we can just use as a service. So a lot of software as a service is also like for certain use cases provided by the cloud providers. I mean, different cloud providers have different kinds of services. So that needs to be looked into. But yeah, a lot of those tools and solutions are available. for people like us to tap into and build on top of. So that is another great area wherein cloud has helped us a lot.
Thank you, Vijay. That's very interesting. Abhinav, I'll go to you. The technology adoption within the edtech side of the world has rapidly gone up. What has been your experience when adoption of cloud or the technology adoption itself, and what were the hurdles? How do you see AI and cloud come together in your business?
Yeah, hi, thanks. Good evening, everyone. So in our case also, we are the edtech company, and we are also using the cloud, same way that every organization is using right now. Everyone is on the cloud today. So we have also in our system, we have our ERP system, which is, we collect the data and we store the data on the cloud, and we analyze and we display on the screens. So in our case, schools were there, and we provide our product and curriculum to the schools. Those are the small schools and remote area schools. And now these days, how cloud is helping them, that they have the data ready in front of them. So with the our ERP systems, we store the data in the cloud. Then the way they need, the way they want to display, we customize the data graphs for them. So like I'll give you the example of the principal, like owner and principal of the school. They want to have the visibility, whether they are inside the school or outside the school. They have that data ready in front of them, because data is coming from the cloud, and wherever they are, they can access the ERP system or whatever system, and they can have the view that inside what is happening inside the school. Like in the admission case, they know that how many admissions are happening, and how teachers are performing, how students are performing, and they have our parents also, they have that visibility, what their words are doing inside the school, how schools are performing, what activities they are doing. So those are the data all coming from school. Whether they are not coming to the school regularly, they don't get the time, but they have the visibility because of this, the data which we are sharing on the cloud.
Thank you very much. And maybe Sam, I'll go to you next, and I'll come to you, Nikhil. I think one of the critical areas is that is being discussed is all about security. How do you see the security pan out, and what has been your experience? How does Cloudflare work on the security concerns which might be there?
Thanks, Debasish, and pleasure meeting all the panelists, and it's nice to be on the panel here. Yes, security is key in this digital transformation. But before I come to this point, in terms of, if you look at that, coming from the theme of the discussion today, starting a business from a startup growing to the unicorn, there are two key aspects which has become very key in India. Today, starting a business has become fairly easy for two aspects. Okay, one is, yes, there are a lot of regulatory hassles and the hurdles have been eased on, right? And BhartPe, Leadschool, and all these things are predominantly born in the cloud one, right? So that's basically because the capex which is needed to start a new business has fairly eased because of these two aspects, the regulatory compliance and the bureaucratic hurdles you had, and the significant capex which is needed. So that means that because a lot of what you would invest into the capex, you could potentially rent as a service, right? That's basically the cloud and digital transformation which has been ongoing. It's if you split and break down into this, there are three layers of the IT stack the cloud transformation is happening. One is on the application. The application vendors led this as with a software as a service model. The second thing which happened is on the compute and the storage part. So you did not invest in heavy in terms of your storage and compute. You could rent it as a service. While this was happening, There was a third aspect which is part of it. Your employee workforce, predominantly 98% of the people were in the office and probably 2% of the people were remote, right? So the third challenge which you're seeing is, which you coming to your question in terms of the security aspect of the network and security. The third layer is the network and network security. Prior to pandemic, it was what we call it as a castle and moat. There was a possibility of ring fencing where it resided. The cloud transformation moved the workloads out of your premises. So it resided across. So your workloads are somewhere, your applications are what you own, what you rent, what you on the public. The pandemic, in fact, accelerated the cloud and digital transformation. You suddenly, where you are designed with the workloads and applications being hybrid and the places, now even the employee is out. Suddenly you have the so-called office space completely changed. That it drove something called as anywhere operations today. The reality of today operation is that you access an application which could be anywhere in the world. You use any of your assets from anywhere. So that's why, that means that the security is key. When you do this security, it's also because today if you work from home, you expect the same performance. You don't want to have that, the clunky getting into it, that performance comes into an issue. So today what it is, what we're looking at is what you call it as the industry terms as a zero trust. That it's just an approach where there is nothing as a default trust, always verify. Because the scenario today is internet is your new perimeter. How do you ring fence a BhartPe or a Leadschool type of one? The second thing comes is how do you deliver those experience to your students or your customers without compromising how it is being delivered. You reach those customers, there is no latency because if I don't use BhartPe, somebody else. And at the same time, the user credentials are secure. So security is very key. And the approach to it is the zero trust or the secure access service edge, which you're seeing.
Thanks a lot. That was a pretty elaborate and well answered. I will go to you, Nikhil. You are working for a global company and you're rolling out applications. I have two questions for you, but the first one, to start with, give your views on how this transformation journey has been adopted, is being adopted in your organization. I will have my second question after this.
Thank you, Debasish. Thank you. So first, I'll just quickly talk about OLX Auto. So here we are solving the problem statement of giving end user the experience of buying auto, second-hand mobile, second-hand cars, of buying and selling seamlessly. A couple of decades ago, no one thought about that we can buy expensive stuff like cell phones and other stuff online. And nowadays, from buying groceries to cell phones, from furniture, we are doing everything online. But unfortunately, there's still an untapped problem statement that hasn't been solved by any of the players, is that still we can't buy cars online 100%. And this is the problem statement that encourages us to give our end users a seamless experience, give them a one-stop solution for all their problem statements regarding the second-hand cars. Coming back to your question, Debasish, so I was just reading this, the Economic Times Cloud Innovation. This word, innovation, is one of the driving factors of our cloud journey. Let's assume that people are not on the cloud. It's not that they can't solve the problem statement. It's about the time, in the time span that they're solving the problem statement. And one of my mentors told me once that you can never ever put a price tag on innovation. Our customers are, nowadays, if you see that more and more online adoption is increasing, people are expecting more from all the players. So if you solve one problem statement, either they'll expect more or they expect it could be better this way, it could be better this way. And if you want to retain your loyal customers, you have to keep on feeding on all their requirements, on all their demands. With cloud, we have, it's acted as a fuel, it acts as a fuel for a rapid expansion. For example, last December, we were operating in 9 markets. Now we are operating in 11 markets. Just imagine, it's not limited to cloud. You're just having a discussion with anyone, and people are asking, how long will you take to deliver this? If you'll just say that, I'll take 3 months, it would be a totally different discussion for the project. If you say, I'll deliver it in 1 week, it would be a totally different discussion. The whole ROI scale gets dependent on the time span with which you are deploying things, which you're launching things. And that helped us because it acted as I said, as a catalyst for a global expansion, and it gives us the luxury so that we can experiment more, we can cater our end users, we can, so basically the mantra that we are following in OLX is research, launch, adapt.
Wonderful, Nikhil. I mean, I will relate my next question based on what you just said. And really the resilience part of it, the speed of innovation, the speed in which you are attempting to do different use cases, the cloud has a large hand, and it's enabling you to do that. But the other side of the coin is that how am I differentiating? What sort of business use cases are really going to create that impact? Is there something that you can share that has been successful for you in the long run, and how really the new technologies, AI, ML, or even cloud computing aspects have really helped you build those business use cases?
So I'll slice this question into 2 parts. First, what sort of business use cases or the company should be adopting towards cloud? In my personal opinion, I strongly believe that the first thing is that what problem statement you are trying to solve for your end users. For example, in our case, we are solving the problem statement of buying and selling used vehicles. The rest of the problem statements, if we are pouring our investment in terms of bandwidth, in terms of resources, so basically we are just trying to reinvent the wheel. We are just trying to solve the problem that's already been solved by lots of players, big players. And is it really worth it? We are just hindering our innovation for achieving what? Second, in our business use case, so OLX was never on cloud from day one. We have seen the whole journey. We were on data center. In 2016, we moved to cloud. In 2018, we moved to hybrid cloud. And we have experienced it, so we have a hands-on experience of that. Till 2016, we have seen that what we were able to roll out and what we were able to achieve. And after moving to cloud, the velocity, the deployment velocity, the pace with which we were expanding is touchwood insane. And the time and bandwidth that we were pouring in earlier, as compared to time and bandwidth that now we are able to utilize, our own engineers, we are able to utilize it more efficiently. And the use cases that we are solving is, first thing is that, as you have seen that, after first wave of COVID, there was a huge business tectonic shift. If we would have been on cloud, we would have been investing more time in just reshuffling our infrastructure resources and saving some money and all those things. They just kept us, this just gave us the cushion that, okay, focus on your business, focus on your core customers, and do not lose your focus. And that's one of the key things that I believe that people should be focusing on, that what exactly your end customer wants. They don't want whether you're on cloud or whether you're on data center. Just focus on what your customer wants, and rest of the things are explicit requirements. Do not make it as a part of the implicit requirements and at the cost of your ultimate customer centricity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Abhinav, I'll go to you next. I have a 16-year-old who's obviously most of his time is now getting engaged with having and preparing his 11th standard and moving forward with technology. One aspect of the edtech industry is all about engagement. And how do you communicate, engage with the users is one of the challenges to solve. Any views, any thoughts, and what have you done in this space, or the challenges that you have faced? Would be a wonderful insight to the audience.
Challenges are not much actually. So in the emerging technology actually, so we are in the, automation, in the world of visuals, we are where AR systems were there, AI systems were there. So same way, so we are just make sure that whatever traditional way of teaching inside the class, we are just, changing them with the interactive classes. So with the visuals inside the class, students are now, they have more interest in learning. And the way we have made our products and curriculum, so this is very easy to understand for the students inside the class, whether it's a KG, nursery or 9th or 8th class. So now it was, outside the class. Now we are inside the class. So where, now they don't get bored with the traditional way of, teaching. So with the visuals, they are more improving themselves, and parents are also thinking that our, kids are now improving because of the visuals, and they are coming and they are going back to the home and they are saying that we have learned this much and we have seen this visuals and now we understood the, whatever lessons we were taught. And same time, we plan the training for the teachers also, not for the students. The same way visuals for the teachers, where teachers are upgrading themselves. Because these schools are very remote schools. And earlier, those kind of facility and flexibility was not there. Now it is there with our, product and curriculum. So we prepare the day plans for the teachers, and teachers plan themselves, prepare themselves before one day, and they go inside the class and they teach accordingly. And principals also, they have visibility what plan and day plans they have completed. Even parents, they have visibility that their, kids, what they are, done today inside the class. So, and for parents also, we have some activities where they come to the school, they, do some activities. And these are the things we are, prepared in our products. And that's the reason now we are unicorn this year. Yeah.
So what I get from you is that you are not only touching the lives of the students, but you are impacting the lives of the teachers and even to a certain extent to the parents
Yes.
that are involved in this journey. Yes. I will flip the question to you, Vijay. And you're working on a mass scale, larger communities. What sort of business use cases you have seen to be very, very prominent within the fintech world, and of course within the payment side of the world? So any insights, anything that you can talk about, innovative business use cases for your industry and your learnings around it would be really helpful.
So there are quite a lot of business use cases that we solve through technology. Again, I'll take a few examples from the payment space and a few from the lending space as well. On payments, what is of paramount importance is that a transaction, especially when it is happening digitally, gets completed as fast as possible. I think that is one of the biggest trust drivers when we talk about, for example, UPI. Right? In India, we do have other modes of payment. For example, we have NEFT. Right? But what happens with NEFT is that we initiate a transaction and then we wait for it to complete, right? And there's this phase of anxiety that hour and a half when like I have made the payment, but the receiving party has not received the payment, right? But with UPI, what happens is that the transaction gets completed in a matter of a few seconds. And that is very, very valuable if the transaction is happening, like, for example, at a storefront, right? If I go to a small shop, I buy some stuff, I can't really make an NEFT payment, even if it is technically possible, right? I can't leave the store if the storekeeper has not received money, right? So the transaction needs to go through in a few seconds, and that is what is really important, and that's where technology plays a very, very large part. Right? You need to have so many different systems talking to each other. Right? If you talk about, I can't go into all the internals of a UPI transaction, but there are 5 different parties involved at a very high level for seeing one single transaction go through, right? So all the 5 parties need to do a lot of hand-holding, need to exchange a lot of information for one transaction to go through, and all that happens in a matter of a few seconds with such a large success percentage of transactions, right? That is where technology plays a large part, and that is what we see at the surface. But if we go deeper, there are also other things happening there. For example, a lot of fraud detection and fraud prevention is also happening on a real-time basis, right? Because again, unlike an NEFT, for a UPI transaction, you don't get an hour to process the data and take a call on whether this transaction is a fraudulent transaction and I should stop it or I should let it go through because it seems like a fair transaction. That decision needs to happen in less than a second, right? And that is again where technology plays a very, very vital role. I mean, there is something which is simply not feasible without technology. You can't really have like real-time transactions without technology in this case, right? And coming to the other business that we are in, which is digital lending. And that again is fundamentally enabled by technology. Because one, for example, how do we underwrite the customer? How do we decide what is his credit worthiness? Right? Should we give a loan? Should we not give a loan? If we give a loan, what should the amount be? What should the tenure be? What are the risk levels associated with that? Right? And that we do like without having any physical interaction with the customer. It's all based on the digital trail that we have of the customer, right? And we take a real bet with money, right, on that customer, and that serves a very real purpose.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vijay. Wonderful answer. I will, given the time that we have, I'll touch upon the topic of Metaverse and get some insights from our seasoned leaders. I'll look at you, Sam. And is Metaverse Cloud the next gen technology? And or the battleground for delivering cutting edge ICT solutions? Any thoughts?
It's a very good question, Debasish. Metaverse today and how it would fan out to the businesses is what important for us to understand and visualize, and where the business would benefit out of this. That's key. Probably look at what social media a decade back or a decade and a half back, and what is today from a business perspective. Metaverse today, right now, it's a dreamland, so-called virtual reality, right? How do you bring this virtual reality and artificial intelligence to the businesses, right? In my opinion, even in the previous discussion, Maruti Udyog, how it's being used, we articulated. But what I look at it is basically from a business adoption of the metaverse could be few things. One is internal to your, how do you conduct businesses? Your employee, like me, you, Debasish, sitting next to each other, but really feel that we are having this panel in a real world, right? Or an employee meeting. That's based from a productivity part of it. The second aspect is what we have seen, all these things, the online and the digital experience. The online and digital experience has made the user a convenience, right? I don't need to go to the grocery stores to buy. It gave me a sense of convenience. We are riding on the user convenience, right? The online and the digital, which is providing the online, the convenience, is moving to the next one, is that how do you bring that, say for example, Leadschool, or in your case, someone who's selling it, the real virtual experience, right? That you actually see that happening, whether it's buying a car, or for example, understand that, okay, you're testing a car, you're going to have an accident, and how those things comes, you really experience that. These are some of the things which is there. And e-commerce would change completely that. Instead of walking into your shopper stop or into your Nika store, I'm actually doing this shopping here. Probably, how do you really go into, do I really try it out in like a trial room? So these are the things realistic which you want to reach to. But coming to your question about how would cloud would look at it. End of the day today is the user experience. How do you deliver those user experience in a very rich, heavy, intense data which is stored and delivered closer. The simple underlying, the lowest common denominator here is the user reality being delivered very close to the user and very close from the content being delivered. That means that it gives a hell a lot of storage and content on the cloud closer to it. So basically you're going to have it wherever your users are, be it your students in your classroom, or be it your payment one, or your people who are selling or buying it. You're going to ensure that you're going to provide that experience closer to it. How does the cloud enable it? The only way it can is the cloud is the only way, because you can reach any nook and corner of your user base. That means it comes with the complexity. Today you're seeing that storage and all those things which is there. How do you keep that so much object storage and without and cost efficiencies to reach and provide the real experience who need not even go to those things, right? So that's what tomorrow what is going to happen is A, it will be as a service. B, it enhance those experience. Now it's tons and tons of data and bytes of data which is stored and videos being delivered, fetched with the least amount of latency, with the high amount of security without any compromise, and saying that you need not actually see a car or a cot being sold, actually see that it is and give that. That's what it will be. It is true that what's going to happen would be delivered as a cloud, the storage, the content, everything very close to the eyeballs or whoever the user, as well as selling, and the businesses would certainly evolve towards that. Be it an e-commerce, be it a school or a content being delivered, or any other applications. That's reality. It's both brick and mortar shops exist. The virtual reality of the metaverse would exist. That's where I would see it probably a decade down the line.
Thank you so much. I mean, that probably brings to the end. I know I'm getting signals, but just last but not the least, of course, some of these technologies are in the nascent stages. There is a lot more innovation coming up, and that makes us equally very, very bullish and looking forward to the upcoming innovations. Thank you so much, panelists. It has been a pleasure and an honor, real honor to be on the stage with all of you. Thank you, everyone.